For watching Random Reviews. My name's Jeremy, and today we're going to be doing a kind of fun review on 3 Chinese manufactured excavators that are really commonly popular here in the homeowners market in the light commercial use. So today we're going to be reviewing the FF-13, the FF-12, which is they are the same machine. The FF-13 just has a steel cabin and some extra features. They're also known as the Agritech QH-12. We're also going to be looking at something directly behind me, which is the EM15 by Diggit. Got some hard ground today, it's beautiful weather, and before we get started, don't forget to subscribe down below and like my channel. And today we're going to go ahead and dig up a stump that's about 3 years old and some hard pan dirt. We're going to show you the features and benefits of the machines, and at the very end we're going to try to dig up that stump with 2 of the machines to kind of show you how they work. The FF-13 and the FF-12 are the same machine. The 13 weighs a little more because of its cab. It's about 200 pounds heavier. Without further ado, let's get started. So first we're going to start out here with the FF-12, and again the FF-13 is the same machine. This machine weighs about 2,600 pounds. It's 1.2 metric tons. A metric ton is 2,200 pounds, 2,205 if you're getting really specific. This machine, as we know with many of these small excavators, weight makes a big difference. I don't care what brand it is, but they tend to shake and be more violent, so usually when you drive them around, you'll use a lower idle and you'll run the idle up a little bit when you're running the hydraulics. This machine can dig a little over about a 5.5 foot hole. Track width is about 40 inches. Overall, it's got a very hard steel front blade, which is about the same as the tracks. Very well built. They have 2 individual half-inch piece of steel that runs off the front, and very, very robust machinery. When we look at the engine compartment of the FF-12, FF-13, in fact, all 3 machines we're reviewing today use the Briggs & Stratton 13.5 horsepower XR engines. I've talked to certified small engine mechanics, and they love Briggs & Strattons. They work really well, and they're very robust engines. This engine, people ask me, well, isn't a diesel better, more performance, and higher power? Well, that's possible. But the nice thing is, with the air-cooled Briggs & Stratton, it's simplicity, and that's what the Chinese machines dominate at. They're very easy to repair. Parts are readily available. The pump on the FF-12 is a little smaller than, say, our other one, our EM15 by Diggit, but it does the job what it needs to do, and it does it very well. More power does not necessarily mean it'll translate into the digging. The pump size just depends on how many things you can run at once. Now, the pump on the FF-12, FF-13 is a pretty standard pump, works very well, but if you want to do like multiple things like turret, extending, curl, and bucket all at once, it will slow it down, and there's your difference. If you really want a little bit more of a hard, medium duty machine, I would really suggest going for a 1.5 ton or upgrading the pumps. These machines can be differentiated by the difference on the size. As the 1 ton and the .8s, they'll put the same engine possibly, but they'll usually tilt it at a side because there's not enough room for the pump to sit in it. That's how you tell between a 1.2 and a 1.0. The .8 machines are really small, and I don't really recommend them unless it's really budgetary concern. With the 1.0 machines, you'll see on your left side, that's where you put the hydraulic fluid in, where the cup holder is on the 1.2s. The 1.2 machine and chassis can hold more hydraulic fluid, and it sits below the driver's feet. So that's how you tell the difference between a 1.0 and a 1.2. The 1.5s, depending on who makes them, they're much more accessible, bigger panels, they have a longer track width. The FF-13 is the same as the FF-12. It does qualify as a 1.3 ton machine because of the heavy steel cab around it. It does feature green glass, and if you don't know what that is, that's radiant reflective glass. So if you leave this thing outside, the interior is not going to dry and crack away. Also, when you're working in hot sun, just like your car, it will keep you from getting sunburnt quite as easy, and it keeps you out of the elements. With the cab, it does offer windshield wiper, an oscillating fan, and a dome light with, well, and believe it or not, a headlighter. It also has 2 extra work lights up top besides the one on the boom. The one disadvantage to the 13, the one disadvantage of the 1.3 ton machine, or the cab FF-13, is it is a little bit louder inside. It's not really that bad, and it's very doable. None of these machines are loud by any stretch of the imagination. They are a little bit harder to service, and that can be, depends if you're going to do the work or have somebody else do it. There is an easy way with the FF-13 and the FF-12 is the back panel. It actually comes out with 8 screws and has full access to the back for servicing. So now we're going to talk about the EM15 Diggit. These are become very popular on the markets today. They do have an upgraded pump, as we talked about the FF-12 and 13. It's about twice the size, and they do work a little faster. These machines being a little over 3,000 pounds, about 3,100 pounds, they are a little more stable. The tracks are about 4 inches wider and they're longer, so it is a lot more stable for digging. These machines, because of their weight, you can pick up more because of the counterbalancing off the front blade. Now when digging, always put the blade down, and it could give you a little more weight towards the back and able to dig harder and more weight. Now with the EM15, the back does open up freely without any bolt removal or anything. And it does make it very easy to service. The hydraulic pump is up to the right side of the driver. There's a little keyhole there to add your fluids. And it does have an ergonomic top control panel. The two top long bars on the floor are what steer it. And like Yanmars, they use the Yanmar pedals for the auxiliary and the blade up and down for the front blade, the push blade. And you can use your feet to do those. It does offer a service light on the boom, just like the others. And it's just generally speaking, if you're going to be on this thing for a long time, it really is more ergonomic and more comfortable to operate for longer periods of time. Now, the one thing you won't notice in any of these three machines is they don't have swing booms. A lot of people like those. I personally don't care for them much because it's just more things to go wrong. The simplicity of the Chinese machines is what really sells them. They're a bargain. They actually work wonderfully, but make sure you're buying the right ones. When you look at some of how the machines are built, look at the chassis themselves. You can see how they're welded together. You can see that there's tubular steel that make them. And the older ones, a lot of the 0.8s and the 1.0s, they used kind of this casted material. It wasn't very good. And the overall quality of some of the machines out there are just garbage. Be careful with what you get. The older models were not very good, and even used, I would really suggest standing away from them. The newest modern ones are doing very well. They're very well built, and I think they'll outperform just about anything that you can throw at them. Some of the earlier models didn't even have grease zerks, which both of these brands do. They do come with floor padded mats, and they do come with little toolboxes. Really, the toolbox just has a grease gun in it and a couple little sockets. Nothing really to write home to mom about, but it's a nice little touch. So without further ado, let's start digging up some dirt. Today we're going to dig that stump, half of it with the FF-13, and the other half we're going to do with the EM15. Now, as we can see here, I'm in the cab running. We're going to do the best I can to show you what these do. This lever right here in the center, that goes the blade up and down. That would also be your counter, be your pivot point for digging. These two right here are going to be your drive controls. We're not going to turn right now, but if I go this way, it'll turn right. If I go this way, it'll turn left, forward, and backwards. Now, these big ones are what does the boom. Also, don't forget, this is your auxiliary that I was talking about right here, and it basically runs if you have the auger hooked up or something like that. Now, as far as these two big controls, it's very simple. This one here, as you pull it back, the main mast goes back and forth. If you look very carefully at the bucket, if you turn it sideways, it can open and close the bucket. And it will go all the way out, it won't come all the way in. And that manual thumb can be adjusted depending on what you're digging or how you want to dig. Now, the one on the left here will actually turn the machine left, and then it goes back to right. As far as pushing it forward, it takes the small boom with the head and it moves it back and forth. Now that we just dug half that stump out with the FF-13, now we're going to try the EM15 by Diggit and see if the 1.5 ton gives a little more grip, and which also remind you that it has a pump that's twice the size. A longer track, more weight, bigger anchor front push bar. We'll see how this one performs. Oops. So as you can see here, they did a really good job. There was a lot of roots. There was a pretty heavy stump, but it still pulled it out. If you have any questions whether or not these can work, well, I think that just answered your question. They both did a phenomenal job. I think the pump and the power of the 1.5 and the weight worked a little bit better. It was a little smoother. But still, the 1.2, the FF-13, FF-12 still did a great job. I mean, we did start out on the heavier rooted side, but it was a really nice dig either way. I think you could have pulled this out with either or machine. I would be curious whether or not a 0.8 or a 1.0 could do it. But for all you landscapers out there or homeowners that want to pull out tree stumps or brush and things like that, really a great machine. You can trench with it, I think, very, very comfortably. Even with light roots, you can still bang through them. But I think overall, I would definitely recommend the Chinese excavators, at least the FF Industrials and or the Diggit brand. Thank you for watching Random Reviews. Again, my name is Jeremy, and well, hope you enjoyed the video today. Have a great day.